Thanks everyone for joining us here today. I'm Chris Harley with DataBasics, and as you guys see, the topic of our webinar today is a better way to manage leave. At DataBasics here, we've been providing companies with time tracking and expense reporting solutions for the last 20 years. And really in the last couple of years, we've seen a big increase in organizations looking for ways to go out and automate and better manage what's taking place from a leave and absence management process. And so as we've been doing a number of different webinars over the last year and a half or so, and we put together our calendar for 2019, one of the key areas we did want to focus on is what we see our customers do as it relates to leave and absence management. So with that being said, what we're looking to do today is take about 20 minutes or so and take you through a couple areas as it relates to leave management. So first off, just kind of start talking about, key challenges as far as what people are seeing within leave and absence management. Talk about what technology is out there and how that is able to help organizations. Talk ultimately about, how does it work? How do you put together a process for leave and absence management? We will also go through kind of a quick overview of the solution just to show you what DataBasics has been providing for our customers. And lastly, we've got a few minutes there at the end to do some question and answers. Again, for those of you that who aren't familiar with the GoToMeeting tool that we're using here for this webinar, you will see that there is an opportunity for you to go ahead and ask questions within the toolbar there on the right side of your screen. It should be. Throughout this process, if you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead and enter a question into that the toolbar, and I will make sure we get a chance to answer all of those at the end of the presentation. And if we don't get time to answer them here today, we'll make sure we respond to you in writing or with a phone call just to get some of those details back to you. For those of you that aren't familiar with DataBasics, we've been providing time reporting solutions here for well over 20 years. So we were one of the first to market with a web-based time offering going back into the late 90s. In addition to a time reporting solution, we do also have an expense reporting option. But today, really what we're talking about, what companies are doing with our time management tool, and more specifically, our leave offering. We have had an integrated leave tool within our time solution here for the last 8-9 years or so. And really what that stemmed from is our early customers who are using our application to go ahead and track time. Naturally, we're looking to track what was taking place as it relates to individual time codes and pay codes within the time tool. We then realized that we should expand that into a tool that allowed companies to go out and do leave request, accruals, and all the rest of that. As far as our solution, it is a global offering. We are headquartered here in the greater Washington, D.C. area, but we do support customers throughout the world. We have a number of key partnerships that relate to what we're doing in the time tracking front. We work with Ceridian and ADP. And one of the things we're also very well known for is our support organization, which is 24/7. So once people do come online, they do have the ability to reach out to us at any point. And really, as it relates to how we try to differentiate ourselves in the marketplaces, we are looking to provide a solution there that will meet 100% of individual organization requirements. So with that, let me kind of talk about what we continue to hear from organizations as it relates to challenges that they're having with leave and absence management. The first one, and again, this isn't something that is new to you guys or we need to be telling you, is really that leave can be very complex and also somewhat unstructured. And when we say unstructured, is as organizations grow through mergers and acquisitions, sometimes a plan that was put in place may not be able to be executed upon. Sometimes as employees are onboarded as part of their compensation or just part of their overall package, deals are made and side deals are made as it relates to what we may be offering to organizations. The other component of that is simply just having complex leave structures. Leave oftentimes can be driven based upon the person's title, the tenure within the organization, and other items out there. And so the first challenge is that as we build these complex and unstructured processes, there really is no good or easy way to go out and manage that process. Now, the first place most people look is to their payroll or HR provider, and oftentimes those systems may work, but oftentimes they don't. In many organizations we talk to, they will tell the employees, well, hey, on your pay stub, don't necessarily, take to heart exactly what those accrual numbers numbers are, because we may be capturing that information somewhere else, and so that may not be the actual number that we're seeing. And oftentimes what that tool is, where organizations are managing leave and absence, is through some sort of paper or Excel process. And as you'll see here, we say they aren't really solutions. What they are is a repository where we can put information, but they typically aren't very complex. They don't have any sort of automation tied to it. And so for organizations that have paper and Excel processes, you typically have one, two, or many individuals out there who are trying to go out and manage that overall process. And then really the last piece out here, and this is really kind of grassroots driven from within the organization, is that users these days do expect to have mobile apps. I mean, they expect mobile apps for really every, whether it be personal or corporate tool they're using out there. And so as it comes to leave, one of the things that we continue to see is companies coming to us and saying, hey, what can you give our users so they can see this information in the mobile app? So as we look at these key challenges, the nice thing here is that there are ways to go ahead and solve really all of these items out there. And really what the way is looking at technology. What technology now provides out there is the ability for organizations to easily support robust and flexible accrual processes out there. So regardless of how complex or what drives how that accrual may look, there is the ability to put this information into software and to have software go out and keep on top of what that process may be. The second piece of that is that once you put that into a piece of software, you are able to go out and automate a lot of these pieces. So not only automating individual corporate policies, but also go out and automate compliances and any other area where you're looking to make sure that employees are abiding by the rules that are either set by the state, the federal government, or just simply set by your organization. And of course, there are mobile apps out there. So the ability for a user to go in and get this information is certainly going to be readily available. And once you put all this information in a piece of software, what it gives you is real-time visibility. Again, as we look at Excel spreadsheets and paper processes that we see a lot of organizations still using, what you don't have is the ability for someone to go out, let's say a manager or someone in the field, and be able to see that information. And then the last piece here is that if you are going to go ahead and put in place a piece of software, you got to go out here and integrate that into your existing systems out there. So let's kind of dive a little deeper into some of these individual areas and see how we're able to help. So as I mentioned earlier, there now is the ability within a piece of software for you to go ahead and have a very flexible accrual engine, as well as to go ahead and automate. So with that being said, what we like to focus on is that as an organization, you can choose the data that drives the accruals and policies. This is not something where you need to be handcuffed or limited based upon either how much effort someone on the HR or payroll side of the organization wants to put into it, limited based upon what the payroll system or HR system may have. You can go out and build in the complexities, and those complexities oftentimes will go beyond just simply the accruals. But what happens if we have policies out there where we want to have the ability for people to give leave hours that may go to a charitable contribution or to some other situation out there, or maybe we have someone that takes an absence internally within the organization for a number of weeks and we need to put the accruals on hold. All of this can be automated. The other piece of that is, as we oftentimes talk about accruals or just leave balances, what goes hand in hand is the ability to go ahead and have requests out there. So you can go out now and go ahead and have an integrated request form. So if I have an employee that needs to go ahead and wants to take some time off around the 4th of July or around Labor Day, we can go ahead and not only see that information, but we can also see what the impact is of that request, which is going to take place in the future as it relates to his or her individual accruals. And then with that, we are also able to go out here and to get real-time calculation of those balances. So as someone goes out and, again, wants to go in and say, hey, I'm going to take a few days off, let's just take real-time, take a few days off here in March, a few days off in June, a few days off in July, we can see what that has as far as impact on the overall individual process. And then, again, we're also able to integrate this data into some sort of HR or payroll system. So even if you want to have this information show up on a pay stub, the software that's out there these days allows us to work hand in hand with an HR or payroll system to be able to push that data through the process. Now, with all that being said, again, one of the first things that we always hear from organizations is their employees want to be able to access this information on mobile apps. And so as you look at the better ways to manage this, first and foremost, mobile apps are going to give people access to information anywhere. It's going to give them that information real time so they're able to see exactly what's taking place. We also are able to go out there and to give people views within a calendar. So it's not just simply the ability to go out and say, hey, what's the number out there? But if I want to see, did I already request this time off, or how does that look? Is that knocking up or bumping up against a holiday or some other day? I can go ahead and see that. And then also we can go ahead and leverage that with notifications. So if there is a change made to a policy, or maybe we've got an approval or rejection process, we're able to go out there and to see that with notifications. Now, whenever we start talking about leave, really the first thing that people always talk about is the ability to provide better access to managers, administrators, and those that need to see information. And so as we look at this, one of the first things we always talk about is the ability to put in place a good leave request solution. I will show you guys in a few minutes what this looks like out there, but we do have the ability to go ahead and have leave request. Those leave requests can have multiple levels of approvals out there, so you can have as many or as few individuals approve it. The leave request also and the workflow also give you the ability to start visually looking at your team or your group or your organization within some sort of group or calendar view out there. So if someone submits a request to me and I want to see, oh gosh, how many other folks are going to be out the week of 4th of July, I'm able to see all that information in a single view and be able to see other individuals as it relates to that overall group calendar. And again, that information is all real time. Now, if we are going to implement a request process and form, what we also do have is the ability to notify those managers. And also to notify those managers of making their approvals in a timely fashion out there. It's not always the user who is being negligent in this process. Oftentimes it's the manager who's not able to get that information in there. And then really the last part of leave, and when we are looking at a request form, is the ability to have audit trails. We're always able to capture the information around when something was submitted, when it was approved, was it modified, was it changed, is there some sort of note or description for why it was changed. And so by implementing and integrating an audit trail within this process, you're able to see complete visibility throughout the process. It also, again, gives you the ability to have compliances in place. So if we ever do get into those instances where there are disputes over leave or disputes over whether it was approved or not, you're able to quickly see exactly that information as it relates to that. So what we've done in the last few minutes is kind of talked about some of those key challenges, talked about how we're addressing them. But more specifically, one of the items that I want to talk about is, how would an organization like DATABASICS actually address this process and deploy it within an organization like yours? The first thing we always do is set in place a good business analysis step. So a matter of sitting down with the organization, understanding what they're currently doing as it relates to policies and processes, and then put in place a process that will ultimately have something that is tightly integrated into your overall process to make sure that we are mapping data that needs to be mapped between our forms and yours. We would then go out, put in place a process to test it in a configuration, train, and then ultimately roll this out. And then once someone is live, go ahead and provide great support as it relates to that overall process out there. Organizations typically ask us, do we have to use the DATABASICS timesheet solution to use our leave solution? The answer is no. As far as typical timeframes for deployment, we're typically looking at about 3 to 4 weeks from beginning to end. Some projects take longer depending upon complexities. Some can be done quicker depending upon a more simple process out there. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the items that we've been talking about here within this overall process. I'm going to go ahead and open up and take a look here at the current time solution as it relates to looking at my individual information. So I'm open up. This is the DATABASICS expense or time and expense platform. Disregard any information as it relates to expense here. But the first thing you'll see over here as an individual user is I have the ability to come in here and to first and foremost look at the time off that I have. What I can see is as I sit this week, I currently have 52 hours of leave. I can see the accrual process that I'm taking. Now, we will get to this in a minute, but eventually you're going to see here that I requested and have been approved for 24 hours to be taken off in March. And what I'm able to see is the impact of that is that come middle March, my balance of hours will be 40 hours. And then as I continue to look down the year, what I will see is I continue to look at my accrual process. You'll see there's a request in here for another 32 hours around 4th of July. And then as I continue to look through this process, I can see individual, or I can see what my overall balance is going to look like as I accrue. Now, right now, this is a very high-level view. This is not, and I can get into these details, which I will show you guys, is that right now that's just showing my overall leave. Obviously, within individual organizations, leave can be broken into multiple different pay or time codes. So we may have, comp time or vacation days or holiday, or really depending upon how you ultimately break it down. And all of that would be accounted for here within the solution. The other item I can do here is I can also look at my leave in a calendar view. And so in this case, as I mentioned before, you'll see here that I've got 3 days off coming up here in March as it relates to this time. And I can start looking forward, and I can see, again, we can see a company holiday here for Memorial Day. If I wanted to request some time off, I can go ahead and request time off here, and I can continue to look further into that overall process out there. So I will have a calendar view. I will also here that as it relates to this individual timesheet, if I want to go out and see information, I can open this one back up here a minute ago. Whoops, let me come back here. If I want to come back into this timesheet, as it relates to the leave that I'm taking here in March, if I want to see the approval history there, what I can see down here is that as a user, I submitted this leave request on January 14th. And what I can see is that my approver approved it on February 6th. So if we ever need to go back and look at details as far as when it was approved, how it was approved, why it was approved, those details should be readily available for the individual user. And again, I can see that information. The other component of this here is that as a manager of the sales team within DataBasics, I can also go out and request and see what's taking place as it relates to my team. And so in this case, I've got a small sampling here, but what you'll see as it relates to this part of July, what I can see is that in addition to myself being on vacation, I have another resource that's on vacation. And so I'm able to start seeing that as a group. Now, in this case, obviously, it's very small sampling there as it relates to those users. But if I did have 10, 12, 15 people in there, I'd be able to see all that information there through the individual time piece. Now, what you're not seeing here, because again, this is really the front end view of the user, is two things. One is you're looking at this application in the web experience. So as it relates to seeing this on a mobile, it looked very similar to what you saw here. The user would be able to go in there and to be able to see information as it relates to again, to be able to see the calendar view. I can see my history and all the rest of that information. I can also very quickly see what my existing PTO is in the top right side of the corner. And then again, as an approver, I can see here that I've got time to approve based upon these users, and I can go ahead and go in and approve. The other piece here you're not seeing is, of course, the overall accruals and rule engine that sits within a platform like ours. And what that rule engine will allow an organization to do is to very quickly and easily go in there and to set up what those policies are. Are they global policies? Do they relate to individual users? What does the accrual look like? When does it start? When does it get paused? Is it a use it or lose it? All of the enjoyable components that go around with leave and absence tracking can all be managed here through a solution. So as you're looking at my accrual schedule, let's say someone else here at DataBasics opened up their time solution to go ahead and request leave. What they will see is probably a different accrual rate based upon the time that they've been here, whether that's a longer time frame or a shorter time frame as it relates to our individual process out there. So with that, we've reached just about our 20-minute mark. Let me go ahead and take a look at some of these questions here that you guys have. And again, as it relates to this process, what we will do here is any questions that I'm not able to answer here today, I will certainly make sure either I follow up with or someone here from the team will follow up with as it relates to what's taking place. So the first question, which is always the first question, which is, pricing and how does this work? So DATABASICS provides our software as a software service. The leave solution that we're talking about here today is an independent module, or it can be tied together with our overall time tracking product. It's basically priced on a monthly basis based upon usage out there. The pricing is determined based upon the number of users that are accessing the system. So on the high end, so the highest cost but the lowest number of users, you're looking at about $4 to $5 per user per month, and then that price goes down as the number of users rises within that. It's a monthly recurring fee. It's going to cover really all components of it relating to our overall service. So that's going to cover enhancements, upgrades, support 24/7, and those pieces. So all of that would be covered. The only other piece, or the only other cost, I should say, would be an initial setup and implementation piece as it relates to the, to the integration and setting up how you want your individual configuration to take place. Question about, again, what payroll systems do we work with? I mentioned a couple of our partners out there, but, really, if you name them, we've worked with them in our, either currently or in the past out there. So, again, if you're looking at the Workdays and others out there, that is no problem for us to integrate. What we would typically do is sit with you guys as an organization during the business analysis step and just figure out what information sits in the HR, payroll, accounting system, what needs to be imported into our system, and what should be pushed back in. I did mention we can certainly import that, so we do tightly integrate this application with those existing processes. So if you are managing and maintaining users someplace else, but want to use a platform like ours just to do the leave, that's fine. We'd be able to pick that information up and push it back. Question here about reporting. What sort of data can we get to? I just touched upon reporting. I know a lot of what we were talking about here was kind of more of the managers and approvers view. So there is a true reporting platform that sits on top of, I can at least speak to what we provide, is on top of our platform. It gives you real-time access to data. So as we're sitting here on a Thursday, if I want to go out and see, what my team has as either accrued or outstanding balances or vacations that they're looking to take, I can see all of that information. It can get as detailed as I need, or it can be, again, just looking at in a very summary level information. With all reporting within our platform, typically it's going to be security driven. So again, if you've got people that you want to see some information and other people not see, not hide information from others, that's just fine here within the solution. And then again, it's just a question about the mobile piece here. Is a user able to do everything on the mobile? Yes. So if you've got folks in the field and they never, or never open up a laptop or never going near, something along those lines, someone should be able to go ahead and to be able to access this on a mobile. They can enter. If they are approvers, they can approve. And again, the idea should be that there's no need to actually touch the web out there. Everything can be managed here through a mobile device. So with that, I know I've taken about 25 minutes here today. There are a couple more questions, but what I will do is I will, again, either I will follow up with individuals directly or someone from DataBasics will certainly reach out to you within the next 24 hours. My contact details here are on the screen right now. So if you guys would like to reach out to me directly, or obviously you see on the right side of the screen, you can reach out to DataBasics in general. If you've got any additional questions, we'd love to answer them. If you've got individual challenges and you're just curious as far as, how tools like ours and others may be able to help you, feel free to reach out to myself. Would be happy to provide any insight and hopefully assistance for you guys. And outside of that, I just want to thank everyone for joining us here today, and hopefully we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you very much, and have a great day.